The Echo Chamber, brought to you by the Holmes Report and produced by the international broadcast specialist Marketeers. Sponsored by the Bullet Group, putting you in tomorrow's conversations today.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Echo Chamber. I'm joined here in London today with Maxim Behar, the boss of M3 Communications and probably Bulgaria's most high-profile and certainly most well-dressed PR man. Max has kindly popped into the studio en route to the PRCA's 50th anniversary party tonight to talk about his brand new book, The Global PR Revolution. Max, thank you for joining me.
Good afternoon, Maya. Very nice to be here.
It's lovely to have you here. So, Max, just so our listeners get to know you a little better, can you tell us a bit about your astonishing 25-year career in communications so far? Where did it all start?
We just celebrated our 25th anniversary in Sofia, Bulgaria. I was for many years a journalist, ended as editor-in-chief of the largest private daily newspaper in Bulgaria, Standard Daily. And then one day, just remembering what Winston Churchill said, that you can achieve a lot of things with the journalism, but you must know when to quit.
Yes.
I just decided to start my own business. Of course, 25 years back in Bulgaria, I don't think anybody knew what's PR, so we were calling this advertising. Started in a small kitchen with a small corridor, and then the secretary was in the corridor, I was in the kitchen, and then the first clients started coming, and that's how it started. And maybe 3 or 4 years later, I received an email saying, Mr. Behar, I've heard about your operation in Bulgaria and would be very happy if we can cooperate together, Sir Martin Sorrell. So I didn't know who is he.
You didn't know who he was?
At all. So I called a lady who was the Young and Rubicon representative in Sofia, and I said, listen, who is this Martin Sorrell? And then she was silent for about a minute and then said, Max, how come Sir Martin knows who are you and you don't know who is he? And I said, I don't know, but so that's how it happened. And then I met late Howard Pastor and then late Terence Billing, and that's how almost 20 years I'm with Hill & Knowlton, Hill & Knowlton Strategies these days. And I think we are the largest operation, having more than 60 people in the office and a lot of international clients. Very, very happy with the business. After 25 years, driving early morning to the office from my house and full with excitement and full with expectations and creative ideas in my head. And also I had these 2 very productive years as president of ICO, and a couple of years before that vice president and treasurer. And I love to travel, to learn, to read. Every day I read at least 2 or 3 articles on public relations and social media and modern marketing. I love Paul Holmes, who is my not only one of my best friends, but also mentors and guru in the public relations business. The way he behaves, the way he speaks. We've been with Paul thousand different events from PRovoke and different summits up to Davos and many other places.
Yeah, we all love Paul. He's a great guy. He's a great boss as well, by the way. And
he's a great personality. That's what I like.
Well, it sounds like you've both kind of grown up in the PR industry, the global PR industry together. You tell this great story in the book about your slightly accidental evolution from an advertising agency to a PR agency via and your first account for an oil company. Can you tell us about that?
It was Amoco Petroleum, and at that time Amoco, who was bought later on by British Petroleum, at that time it was the largest retail oil company in the US. So they wanted to invest in Poland, Bulgaria, and Russia. And when they came to my office, it was the already mentioned kitchen. And I felt very depressed, and I was absolutely sure that they will not work with me. But at the end of the day, they came back and I said, we want to work with you. And I said, why? How come I have this small kitchen and nothing and no secretary, nobody? And then the guy, Jim Shields, who was the country manager at that time, said, listen, we are looking for such a man who will not spend our money for luxury offices and luxury cars and will advise us properly. So that's how we started. And then, of course, the Hill & Knowlton Corporation and many other clients, Microsoft, Cisco. They were I made a soft landing of Microsoft Bulgaria at that time, a country number one with the pirate software, and it was a big fight and a lot of crisis management still. So that was the logical development from doing public relations business in a country where nobody knew what is public relations.
Well, you evolved PR in Bulgaria, that's for sure, and the rest is history. Now, your book, The Global PR Revolution, what was the thinking behind this? What did you want to achieve?
When I spent 2 years as eco-president, I think I've been traveling every month, and I visited more than 45 countries, so almost 50 countries.
Wow.
Met a lot of people, interesting communities, public relations experts, local associations, friends, very good friends, spoke to maybe 50 or 60 different conferences and forums and summits, including the one in Davos many years. So at the end of the day, I decided that it might be good if I can share all those experiences, not only what I think about the changes in the public relations business, but also what the guys from China or from Congo or from Brazil or Australia or Canada, Baltics, Scandinavia think about that. There are a lot of similarities because all we know that our business these days has nothing to do with the business 10 years ago even.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a very, very dynamic change. Sometimes I feel like it's changing with the speed of light. And something which was valid and very interesting and very innovative a week ago is old already because of the fast development of the social media, the way of communication, changing the languages, and different approaches and instruments which companies are using these days. So that's why I call it revolution. And some of the people who are interviewed in the book agree. Some of them don't agree. Of course, the majority agree that it's a revolution. I think that there is one basic, very important point to call it revolution, and this is the change of the ownership of media.
Okay.
Because 10, 15 years ago, it was easy. The clients, they were coming, knocking on our door and saying, Mr. PR expert, would you be so kind to help me to promote my products to the media? So would you connect me to the media because you know the editors or you know how to approach them and this. And so these days, of course, we had at that time very simple instruments. We were saying, yes, of course, Mr. Client, we're all yours. We organize a press conference, and then we have a product promotion, and then we will do this and that. So it had between 5 and 10 different instruments, media breakfast, media trip, visit the factory, interview with the CEO, and that's it. These days, the clients, they come, they knock at the door, and they say, Mr. PR expert, I own media. Would you be so kind to help me to manage this media? And then it means that we should have completely different qualities, completely different knowledge, completely different preparation and completely different approaches to achieve clients' needs. And that's why I really believe that the PR experts these days are a very complicated chemistry or mixtures between publishers, editors, and reporters.
Yeah.
Publishers because we own media, or we operate media on behalf of our clients. Editors because we care about the content. It's our strength.
Yeah.
If we don't operate with the content, with the good language, then we are out of business.
And all that storytelling expertise.
And then
as well.
Reporters, because of the storytelling. Because reporter is someone who reports, someone who finds something interesting and reports to the audience. That's the etymology of this word in English even. And so that's this mixture between publishers, editors, and reporters makes our business completely different and requires from us, from our teams, from our staff in the offices, even from our clients, absolutely different qualities to have. So that's why I think it's a really revolution, and the changes are revolutionary.
And how well do you think the industry globally is adapting to this revolution?
I don't think it's easy because in some of the markets I realize that the changes are absolutely very slowly, and some of them even and I can point even China or partly Russia. Some of the markets they don't accept even the changes, and they don't realize how important are those changes and how important are the changes of the people who are the audience they are targeting. Of course, UK, US, which are the mothers of the public relations business, it's much easier and much more dynamic. One of the huge advantages of this book, and I cannot comment on the quality of the analysis or the speech, but without any doubt, the biggest advantage is that I managed to gather 100 top PR experts from 65 countries inside, and for any research I made throughout the past 1 or 2 years, I never ever found such a publication, even scientific, even a university paper, to have such a big amount, 100 people from all over the world with their experts' opinion, because these guys are really top leaders, from Sir Martin Sorrell through Paul Holmes, David Gallagher, Elise Mitchell, so many, Jack Martin from former Hill & Houghton, and many others, so many top quality people, and also small countries like Albania or Tajikistan, or Vietnam, that people usually don't think that they may have public relations business. This mixture can show to the readers what are the changes in different parts of the world.
Like you said, you've got quotes from almost every big cheese in the global PR industry in the book. They all responded differently, although largely positively, to your question about whether social media constitutes a revolution in public relation or has precipitated a revolution in public relation. Can you pick out some of your favourite quotes and responses to that? Are there any that really spring to mind where you thought, yes, they've totally nailed it?
I really don't have them, especially, but there are really interesting people like John Saunders from Tashman Hill and Jack Martin from Hill & Houghton at that time, who are commenting. Let's say Sir Martin Sorrell is emphasizing on the digital changes.
Yeah.
And he is more on the advertising side. And we had a couple of sometimes discussion with Sir Martin on that, because one of the most important changes in our business is that globally there is a very high-speed merge between the three main elements of public communications, which is public relations, advertising, and digital. And sometimes we think they're separate businesses, but the merge is so fast that one day we will wake up, we'll make our espresso coffee, and then we realize that we live in a different world and we work in a different business. So and a lot of people, and there is a big dispute, which one of the businesses will be leading in the future big merged business. Yeah. So some people, and Sir Martin is one of them, saying, of course, advertising, because in the advertising, there are the money, the media buying, the graphic design, the creativity, the video buying, and the video creation, and all those things.
And that was always his model at WPP, of course.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what he did in WPP. But I'm the one that definitely say that it will be public relations, and there are two main reasons which I think are beating all those messages about the media buying and about the influence on the media, whatever, because you can have millions to buy media, to buy, saying to buy space in the media, but at the end of the day, public relations is the business responsible for the content. And we are the masters of the content. So you can buy thousands of minutes in the TV. You can buy hundreds of thousands of square centimeters in the media, or you can buy places on Facebook, whatever, without content. This is an empty space. And in the public relations, we are the one responsible for the content. Yeah. Number two reason, we deal with the crisis management. And this is crucial importance these days. Because a couple of years ago, we had something like between 8 and 10 hours to solve a crisis. Yeah. You wake up, you read in the newspaper a nasty article, about one of your clients, then you call the client, then you go, then you have a coffee with him, then you have a lunch with him, and then you make a press release, and then you invite a journalist, and then you make a press conference. All those things which usually took about 6 to 8 hours. Today, we don't have 6 minutes even.
No, you've got about 15 minutes, haven't you?
Sometimes we have 6 seconds, to react. So from that 3 elements, advertising, public relations, digital, I think that public relations, having in mind the abilities to solve crises and to manage contact, will be definitely the leading one, supported by the digitals, supported by the media buying, maybe with the graphic design creativity. So this trend, I think, is very loudly described in the book, and majority of the interviewed, let's say, superstars in the PR business agree with this.
Yeah, yes, it's easy to see that. And there's a parallel revolution you talk about how the media has evolved, the death or the almost death of the print newspaper. How has the revolution in the media landscape affected PR? And how have you seen the relationship between PR and journalists change in your time in the industry?
If you mean the traditional media, because there is a strong division between social media and traditional media.
The traditional media I'm talking about.
I think that this revolution devastated both the traditional public relations and traditional media in one at the same time.
Yeah.
And I think at the end of 90s, it was absolutely clear that the traditional media is dying, especially the printed media. And I'm a man coming from printed media. So I was giving interviews sorry about that, but I was predicting that 2025, the last newspaper will appear.
Oh gosh, that still feels really scary to me. We're both from print, so that's...
I know, but that's...
Do you still believe that?
Oh, absolutely. I know, but that's the reality. And it's not because the newspapers are bad, but the newspapers will not survive with a lack of advertising.
Yeah, well, of course, it's all about the finances, isn't it?
Because a daily newspaper will cost, £20.
Yeah.
Why? Because they should pay salaries, they should pay the newsprint, the printing, the delivery, distribution, and everything. So, but it was easy to predict because although we didn't have social media 20 years ago, but we had online media, we had the websites at that time and forums and all those platforms to exchange opinions. So at that time, a lot of people called me and said, Max, you come from the printed media and you son of a bitch, sorry, excuse my French, but why, how come that you predict that traditional media will die? But at the end of the day, it's happening together with the change of our business. And this is a process which is changing journalists, and they exist less and less like real journalists. They're much more bloggers, or they're much more writers on social media, and people who are posting on their Facebook profiles or Twitters and different LinkedIns and Instagram. And then we became, as a public relations expert, much closer to the journalists from the traditional media. So it's a mixture. I don't see any big difference now between the social media and what we do every day in our offices.
Yeah, things have really shifted, haven't they? For journalists and PR people, our jobs are so different to how they were a decade ago, or certainly 25 years ago when I started out in this business. So
no, we were in 2 parts. I don't know whether sometimes depends on the countries. In some of the countries we had a Chinese wall between. In some of the countries we cooperated, so it was different. But at the end of the day, there were 2 different parallel developing professions, businesses. These days, it's one and the same.
You think
it's part of the revolution, I think.
You talk about, you've got a great phrase in the book, which is total transparency. Tell me about that, because that's allied to the rise of social and the impact on brands.
I think that it will affect mainly the name of our business, public relations, because the name of the business was created more than 120 years ago in the U.S., when maybe 5% of the relations of a business were public and 95 were non-public. So the businessmen or the industrial big bosses, they were hiring journalists or former journalists to handle this 5% of public relations they had. So that's how...
Just to talk to the media.
That's how the business came into public relations, because majority of the relations were non-public. And then these days, 100% are public. So the name of the business is a kind of a nonsense. It's like that you can say wet water or transparent glass or something like that. It's public relations. All the relations are public at the end of the day. I think that total transparency is absolutely key issue for our business because it concerns the most important part of the business we are these days, ethics, the business ethics.
Yeah.
It is crucial because we are people who are writing news, who are writing stories, who are making storytelling. And if we are wrong, then hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions, and most probably billions, even with the social media, can be misled, can write the wrong stories. So we should be absolutely on the ethical and corporate social responsible side, and we should understand this. Because, again, sorry for going back 10, 15 years ago, the journalists were the one responsible to inform the audience, right or wrong. And then we were approaching journalists. And when anything happened with the wrong information or wrong news, and then we're telling the client, sorry about that, but, that's the media, that's the journalists. But today, it's us.
Yeah.
So we should feel this responsibility, and transparency is always leading to ethics. Because at the end of the day, and many people, going back 20 years ago, I wrote in Bulgaria the first business ethics standard ever in the country. And I was running the Princess Trust at that time. So I brought this to Prince Charles. And he was absolutely surprised, if not shocked, that someone in Bulgaria wrote the business ethics standard. We had a long discussion.
That's a great story.
Long discussion with him. And at the end of the day, I started traveling all over the country to present the business ethics standard to many businesses which didn't have a clue what is business ethics at all. And a lot of people were asking me, what is business ethics? And then I said, it's so simple, making profits transparently. We are in business to make profits and to pay salaries, to invest in our business, to grow up. But at the end of the day, if we make it transparently, then that means that it's ethical. And that's why I emphasize very much in my office, in ECO, when I was a president, and still in the executive committee, in many other communities like the World Communications Forum Davos, which I'm president these days, ethics and transparency. This is the absolute base of our business. And
how ethical do you think the PR industry is these days?
Oh, to a huge extent, much more and more ethical than decades before. And I don't want to mention even Bell Pottinger case.
Well, you just did.
But this is one of the very, and
that was a game changer, right?
It was, yes, from a certain point a game changer. But it was and I should praise PRovoke and my good friend Francis Ingham about that, because these guys, they were fighting a lot, and they did what they should do to make a case study. It's about 15 pages in my book about Bell Pottinger, but about the whole case. But at the end of the day, they showed that we are in business, which if you make a mistake, then you cannot be anymore in this business. It's no way in this modern world.
Well, yeah, back to the transparency point, right? You can't get away with anything. And so what happens next? We're going through the revolution. We've been through quite a lot of revolution in terms of the impact of social media in the past decade, and particularly the last 2 or 3 years. How do you see this evolution of the industry now progressing? What's next for public relations?
On one hand, it's the artificial intelligence, which will help a lot our business, and is helping already. But I think that, first of all, everything in the offices is changing. And we should realize that if we want to develop this revolution into an evolution, then we should have completely different positions, completely different people. with completely different knowledges in the office. But I think that from one hand, people who understand artificial intelligence, on the other hand, full with people in our offices who have a natural intelligence, reading a lot, huge amount of education, and at the end of the day, most probably the business will change in a way that all of us, we will stay 24 hours in front of our mobile phones, tablets, monitors, smartwatches or whatever, and will communicate with our clients and their clients in a way that we will be the decision makers. It will not be the clients. And that's I think the most important change will come very soon, that the clients will not decide anything. We will not wait for the approval, because if we wait a client to approve whatever campaign or reaction or posting on Facebook, it will be totally lost.
Yeah.
So we should be ready to take over absolutely in a very professional manner the public communications on behalf of our clients without responsibilities.
Yeah.
So we will be the sole decision makers, which had never been in this business before.
And becoming true, trusted, well, not just counsel, but
No, not counsel, decision makers.
Yeah.
We are not anymore advisors. We should be ready to become a final decision makers with the whole responsibilities.
That's an ambitious aim. How long do you think that's going to take?
No, absolutely. Absolutely. This will happen, and it's happening now. It's the very beginning. And this is happening as a result of the global PR revolution, because it's change on the base of changes in the social media, which are changing our role into the public relations business.
So what advice would you give for somebody with all your legacy and history in the industry, but also somebody who's very plugged into what's going on now and where it's going? What advice would you give finally to a young person who's kind of just starting out in their career in public relations? How are they going to succeed now?
The advice I can give is absolutely valid both to the young persons and to the old lions, or to the old animals,
the grumpy old lions.
in our business. And this is very simple. Don't neglect your education. Read every day an article. Learn something new. Because I know a lot of people, and they say, Max, I'm 20 years in business. I know everything. Not at all. Every single day you should learn something new. We should analyze this and change ourselves. Otherwise, really, the business is developing with the speed of light, and you can miss 2 or 3 weeks or months without learning anything new, without reading interesting article, without talking and disputing and quarreling even on social media with someone else. Then it's every minute without learning education. It's a lost minute.
Okay.
I graduated a couple of months ago at Harvard. And I'm very happy that after...
Yes, I know you did. Congratulations.
Thank you. After 25,
Never stops learning.
25 years, and it was a good case study for my team as well.
Yeah.
After all those years in business, you should learn and you should change.
Well, stay learning and stay curious, kids. It's a great read, the Global PR Revolution. Max, thank you so much for coming to talk about it today. I thoroughly recommend it. It's full of great anecdotes. And thank you for joining me in the Echo Chamber. I'll see you at the party later.
Thank you very much, Maya. It was a big honor for me. Thank you.
Pleasure.
You've been listening to the Echo Chamber. Brought to you by the Holmes Report and produced by Marketeers. Sponsored by the Bullet Group, putting you in tomorrow's conversations today.